Good afternoon. Welcome to Lunch Break Live with Tea Party Patriots. I'm Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action. In just a moment, you'll be joined by my colleague, Bill Pasco. He's going to give you the report from Washington and also a campaign update. But before we do that, I'd like to give you the call to action, which is coming from our 527 Super PAC, Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. We want you to be active and engaged in helping us get out the vote for President Trump in the swing states around the country. And we've made that possible for you to do, whether you live in a swing state or not, from anywhere in the country. Just go to March to Victory, march2victory.com. And when you get there, you can select several different options. One of the options is making phone calls. If you select that, we'll be sending you an email that tells you how to download our app and use the app to make phone calls. If you have trouble with the app and you'd rather have a good old-fashioned phone list, we can make that happen for you as well. We also have postcards. If you sign up for postcards, we will ship you a packet of these postcards that look like this. On the back side, it will already have an address filled out, and then all you have to do is write your message to the voter. And we give you sample messages to write to the voter, so you don't even have to think of what to say if you don't want to. You can put it in your own words, but we give you a few sample scripts to get started on that. Now, there is a little catch with the postcards. Right now, with the postcards, we're asking you to take the number that you can actually buy stamps for to mail. So we need you to be able to mail them. If you cannot buy stamps for them, then let us know and we will figure out a way to get some to you, and then you'll ship them back to us and we will do stamps. And we are asking people who do that and buy the stamps will have to comply with the Federal Election Commission rules, which means signing a disclosure form. But we send you all of the details to get that done. Now, if you don't want to do stamps, if you don't want to do postcards, but you want to donate to help us get these postcards out, you can click on donate up at the top of march2victory.com, and that will help with the postcards. There are also a couple of other options, going door to door and then getting involved to help increase the voter turnout. We'll be telling you more about how to increase the voter turnout in coming weeks, so hold tight on that one. And then for door to door, we are partnering with Turning Point Action and America First Works to do door to door activity. And we'll send you an email that has the details of how you can get involved with those groups to do door to door. Now, if there is not a door-to-door opportunity in your area, we will send you details and urge you to go get involved in a campaign of your choice to go door-to-door with that campaign. And we think that's better for you as a volunteer anyway, rather than volunteering with us. We do appreciate people who will go door-to-door with us. We also know that a lot of our activists get to know the candidates. The activists get to know the candidates by going door to door, and they build that special relationship with the candidate. And then when the candidate becomes an elected official, you're able to leverage that relationship when you care about legislation that may be coming before that candidate, whether at the local, the state, or the congressional level. And that's why we urge you to go door to door with your local campaign. And we'll send details about that. Those are the 4 different areas we're looking for volunteers for. And then, as always, our 501c4 Tea Party Patriots Action continues to look for volunteers for poll watching and also poll working. If you're, if you're interested and able to do poll watching or poll working, you can go to secureandwin.com to sign up for that. Secureandwin.com. Now we're going to go to Bill Pasco for our Washington report.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. The House and Senate are both out until September 9th. Now let's talk about illegal immigration for a moment. Remember back when Joe Biden was still the Democrats' presumptive nominee for president, and he announced his decision to create a form of amnesty for illegal aliens who were married to American citizens? And remember how we were all just waiting for some state, likely Texas or Missouri, to file a lawsuit challenging Biden's ability to implement that program by executive fiat? Well, wait no longer. A week ago Friday, Texas and 15 other Republican-led states filed suit to stop Biden, saying in their filings that the administration unlawfully bypassed Congress to create the amnesty for what it called blatantly political purposes. Quote, "This action incentivizes illegal immigration and will irreparably harm the plaintiff states," says the suit filed in federal district court in Tyler, Texas. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said in a statement Friday that the Biden program, quote, "violates the Constitution and actively worsens the illegal immigration disaster that is hurting Texas and our country," end quote. Meanwhile, in a story that's being massively ignored by the dominant media, ABC News reported last week that the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General has uncovered what it calls an urgent issue regarding the handling of unaccompanied immigrant children, to wit, warning in a new report that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been unable to keep track of hundreds of thousands of immigrant children. The report by Inspector General Joseph Kafari said that as of May of this year, more than 291,000 unaccompanied children had not been placed into removal proceedings because ICE had not notified them with notices to appear or scheduled a court date for them. In other words, the government has lost nearly 300,000 unaccompanied immigrant children. We can only guess as to why the department chose to send this report to Congress last week, while every political reporter in the country was in Chicago covering the Democrat convention, or why none of the national news media has chosen to follow up. Now the latest on the Biden impeachment. Last Monday, on the same day Joe Biden addressed the Democrat convention for his big send-off, Republican congressmen on the Judiciary, Ways and Means, and Oversight and Accountability Committees released a 291-page report detailing the findings of their inquiry into the possible impeachment of President Biden. They accused him of what they called impeachable conduct. The lawmakers said they were still investigating, but they did not call for an impeachment vote. Following the report's release, Speaker Mike Johnson released a statement commending the committees for their work and recommending that all Americans read the report. He did not say anything about next steps. During the course of the investigation, the committees were able to tie $27 million from foreign sources to the Biden family and their business associates. It's a fair question to ask whether any of that money would have been directed to anyone named Biden if Joe Biden had not been in office at the time. Now the latest on the shooting aftermath. According to multiple media reports early last week, multiple Secret Service employees are being placed on administrative leave after the failed attempt on President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. Both CNN and Fox News reported that a member of Trump's personal security detail and personnel from the Pittsburgh field office of the Secret Service have been directed to work on administrative duties from home. Republican senators are releasing disturbing information in the wake of the failed assassination attempt. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley has released text messages showing that law enforcement identified the shooter more than an hour and a half before he climbed on top of the AGR building and fired 8 shots at President Trump. And multiple whistleblowers have been in touch with Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, including one who says Secret Service officials told agents not to request more personnel for that specific rally, and their request would be denied if they did. Stay tuned. Now to the latest on non-citizen voting. Last Thursday, the Supreme Court partially agreed to an emergency request by the Republican National Committee to revive an Arizona law that strengthens proof of citizenship requirements for voting in state elections. The vote was 5-4. The reinstated law in Arizona requires state officials to reject state voter registration forms if the person trying to register did not provide proof of citizenship. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, a Trump appointee, joined Justices Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson in dissent. But a different majority of the Supreme Court also voted to reject a second request from the Republican National Committee to reject federal voter registration forms filled out by persons who did not provide proof of citizenship. According to the Arizona Secretary of State's office, that would have led to 42,000 people already registered being denied the ability to vote in the presidential election in November. Now let's talk about early voting for a moment. There are 71 days left before Election Day, but that doesn't mean we've got 71 days left to persuade undecideds to see things our way. Early voting begins in September. In just 2 weeks, on September 6th, the first mail ballots will be sent to voters, and early in-person voting begins as early as September 20 in some states. Federal law requires that military and overseas voters must get their ballots early, and that ballots must be mailed out no later than 45 days before an election. This year, that date is September 21. Some states, including North Carolina, will begin mailing ballots even earlier, on September 6th. Here's a quick review of early in-person voting dates in the key battleground states. Arizona, 27 days before Election Day, which is October 9. Georgia, the fourth Monday before Election Day, or if that's a state holiday, the next day, which is this year October 15th. Michigan begins by the second Saturday prior to Election Day, which is October 26th. Nevada, 17 days before Election Day, which is October 19th. Pennsylvania varies by county. Pennsylvania does not offer early voting, but counties may make absentee and mail-in ballots available to voters in person up to 50 days before Election Day. And Wisconsin, no earlier than 14 days before Election Day, which is October 22nd. Now let's talk about the campaign update for last week. Let's talk about RFK Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been running an independent campaign for president since dropping out of the Democrat presidential nominating contest in October of 2023, made an announcement of some note on Friday, conceding that in the current environment he could no longer say to his staffers or volunteers or donors that he had a viable path to the presidency. He announced that he was not ending but suspending his campaign. Specifically, he said that in about 10 battleground states where a vote for him would change the outcome of the election, he would be removing his name from the ballot. He said he would leave his name on the ballot in deep blue and deep red states, and he hoped that his supporters in those states would give him their votes. But in the battleground states, he believed that a vote for him would more likely than not come at the cost of denying former President Trump a vote that Trump otherwise would have won. And given Kennedy's feelings toward the Democratic Party today, that was a cost he deemed too high. Later on Friday, he made another announcement of note when he appeared at a Phoenix rally for former President Trump and walked on stage to Foo Fighters' My Hero before ending the suspense and endorsing Trump in Trump's presence. Kennedy opened his remarks with an attack on the Democrat Party for abandoning democracy, spending millions of dollars and filing lawsuits all over the country to try to keep him off the ballot in states all over. He accused the media and the Democrats of a conspiracy that kept him from being competitive. Then he dropped the bomb. Quote, "Many months ago, I promised the American people I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. In my heart, I no longer believe I have a realistic path to electoral victory," he said. "These are the principled causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent, and now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children. One of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked me to enlist in his administration. I'm speaking, of course, of Donald Trump." The endorsement comes at least partly as a result of a months-long effort by the Trump campaign to recruit Kennedy. It seems Kennedy pulled about equally from Joe Biden and Donald Trump. As long as Biden was in the campaign, Kennedy was an electoral cipher, serving as a parking place for Democrats who didn't really like the thought of voting for Biden, and Republicans who didn't really like the thought of voting for Trump. But once Biden got out and was replaced by Harris, many of those reluctant Democrat Kennedy supporters appear to have left him to go back to their natural home, supporting Harris. That's one of the reasons her support shot up after Biden got out. That left most of Kennedy's support coming from Republicans still reluctant to vote for Trump. So now that Kennedy has decided to suspend his campaign and endorse Trump, it's the hope of the two men that remaining Kennedy supporters will become Trump supporters. I'm going to keep my eye on this and look for a couple of things. That is, does Kennedy go on the campaign trail with Trump? Does he begin traveling with Trump to rallies and become a regular featured speaker at Trump events? Or do they find a way to detail Kennedy to battleground states on his own? Do they engage in paid advertising with Kennedy, either in broadcast form or via social media? Do they pitch a message to known Kennedy supporters or go broader with a broader message to independents and undecided voters? It's accurate to say Kennedy did not have a lot of support, but it's also accurate to say that this is likely to be a very close race, and every little bit helps. Now to the Jenny Beth Show. Episode 82 of the Jenny Beth Show dropped on Wednesday, and episode 83 of the show dropped Friday. The two dropped just 2 days apart because they're parts 1 and 2 of a two-part episode featuring Jenny Beth's interview with Craig Shirley, who began his career in the 1970s as a conservative political and communications operative, and then engaged in a midlife career switch, becoming a best-selling historian with 6 books on Ronald Reagan and 3 others on other topics to his name. As with last week's conversation with Morton Blackwell, Jenny Beth's conversation with Craig is simply too engaging to be captured in just one episode, so they split it into 2. Highly recommended. And that's our Washington Report for this week.
Bill, thank you so much for that Washington Report. If you have questions or comments about what you heard from the Washington Report or questions for Tea Party Patriots action at all, feel free to shoot me an email. My email address is Jenny, Jenny, Beth, B-E-T-H, Jenny.Beth at teapartypatriots.org. Now, for our call to action this week, it's coming from our 527 Super PAC, Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. As you know, we have a website set up so that you can volunteer to be active in our activities to get out the vote. You can go to that website at marchtovictory.com. marchtovictory.com. We also have one other website that we've launched, and we'd like you to fill out, to go onto this website, take the action there, and also to share it with your friends and family. That website is pledgetovotefortrump.com. pledgetovotefortrump.com. And on that site, you'll be asked to make a commitment to vote for Trump for this election cycle, and also how you intend to vote. What is your plan to vote? Are you voting absentee? Are you voting early? Or are you voting by, or are you voting on election day? So it'd be absentee or mail, voting early in person, or on election day in person. That information is important for you and also for other people, especially in the swing states like Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, because we want to make sure that if we know that people are voting by mail, that we're chasing the ballots and we're looking for making sure they've requested the absentee or the mail ballot and that they've got them and that they're turning them back in. If they're planning to vote early in person, then we want to make sure that they know when polls open, where the polling locations are, and that other important information, and make sure that they go and vote early in person. And then if they're planning to vote on election day, we know that that's already the plan, so we'll still probably probably be sending messages urging them to vote early, but then we would also make sure that they know when and where to vote on election day itself. So that website, pledgetovotefortrump.com, is important for you. And then it's also important if you can get other people to fill out that form so that we can help chase their ballots when the time comes in just a few short weeks. So again, pledgetovotefortrump.com. Fill it out today and then share it with your friends and family. Share it far and wide, making sure other people do the same thing. And then we can make sure we're chasing those ballots so we can help get Trump over the victory line. Thank you again for joining us today. We'll be back next week with Lunch Break Live with Tea Party Patriots. And if you have any questions at all, remember you can shoot me an email at jenny.beth@teapartypatriots.org. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining us.